Network Entertainment.
Hi, I'm Pio Ontiveros, and here on Let's Talk, what we do is we unbox, unpack, and decode. And this time, what we're going to unbox, unpack, and decode is the President's fifth State of the Nation address, which he just delivered on Monday, July 27, at the Batasan Pambansa. And to help me do that is the founder and CEO of WR Numero Research and WR Numero Advisory Group.
Yes.
Robin, not Padilla, but Garcia. Hi, Robin. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Finally.
Yeah,
happy to be here.
you're so in demand. You are all over the
hindi naman
place.
po.
Ang dami mong hindi lang interviews on cam, ang dami mong meetings and I'm sure speeches and so many people consulting you, know. And
We try
this is
our best.
this is a good a time as any. So anyway, eto muna no, bago natin pag-usapan yung SONA, the way we heard it, the way it was delivered by the President. Before Monday, July 27 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, what were you hoping to hear? Okay, so ito yung para bang uulitin mo yung sinabi mo dun sa mga guesting mo bago natin narinig yung SONA ni Presidente.
So madami sana, of course, yung the flood control, no, 1 year hence, no. So I wanted to see whether or not, it is what I would call as a having a sincerity deficit, because it could just be selective justice, ilang tao lang yung pinoprosecute, yung hinuhuli, and then the most important actors are not being touched. And I thought that was a deficit, because instead of a sincere and wholesale governance reform, it's really used for political ends, right? Of course, we know that there is some political objective, but the broader idea is it's for good governance, whether or not it is to achieve political ends. So that's why I thought there was a sincerity deficit. If you're really sure about, and serious about this type of reform, then even if it's your family member, you would definitely act on it. And I'm happy that that's what he ended up addressing in the first part.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to hear that.
Okay.
The second thing is yung sa West Philippine Sea, which he did address dulo.
Yeah.
So kasi parang we were being a bit soft na on China this year, yun yung sinasabi ng analysts, and I believe them, and I also have the same observation. I think because
So if we rewind to SONA 2025, 2026 na ngayon, correct?
Yes.
So we syempre everybody remembers, tumatak na sa utak natin kasi 'di ba yung mahiya naman kayo.
Correct.
So talagang kumbaga ang gusto natin marinig at mangyari totohanin mo yung mahiya naman kayo,
Yes.
no, which can only be fleshed out if you were really serious and you went after these people, kumbaga, no.
Yeah.
So and then yung sa West Philippine Sea also. So apart from that, you're happy to hear that. So when you heard those first lines, the very first paragraph, the president's speech on the flood control corruption scandal, did that shock you, and did you fall off your chair? And before you answer that question, we're going to roll the soundbite just so that people can hear it again.
Masakit man sa akin ito, ngunit kailangan nating gawin ang tama. Hindi ako pangulo ng aking pamilya. Hindi ako pangulo ng aking kaibigan. Ako ay Pangulo ng Pilipinas at ang tungkulin ko ay sa inyo, ang aking mga kapwa Pilipino.
You know, when he said that, I was like, oh my God. Parang ganun.
that was good.
That was good.
I thought that was good. I think that was convincing and compelling.
Yeah. Was it shocking also to hear it? I mean, in the first few minutes, parang...
Well, I'm probably not shocked with maybe not shocked is the not the right word.
Yeah. What is the right word?
I would say siguro just it was impactful for me. So and that came out at the start.
You were glad he said it. You were glad he said it.
Definitely, because I was waiting for that.
Okay. But then, so right now, on the ground, ang nangyayari, nasa ombudsman pa naman, pa lang, di ba?
So, tingnan natin kung may totoo
Tingnan
yan.
natin kung tototohanin.
Babantayan ng tao yan, siyempre.
Yeah, okay. So, from there, the other thing that I wanted to skip to, no, that other part muna, is which apparently got very good reception, was the tax relief measure. So let's watch this clip also.
We will pursue tax relief measures that promote growth, that generate revenue, and advance equity towards socio-economic sustainability. Kaya bilang natatanging proteksyon sa kanila at para mas mapakinabangan nila ang pinaghirapan nilang kita, nananawagan ako sa Kongreso upang maipasa ang batas na magbibigay ng bahagyang ginhawa para sa ating bayaring buwis. Una, palawakin natin ang exemption sa income tax. Dagdagan natin ang mga manggagawang malilibre sa buwis sa kanilang kita. Isasama na natin ang mga kumikita ng hindi lalagpas sa 350,000 pesos kada taon. Kasabay nito ang karampatang pagbaba ng income tax ng iba parang manggagawa. Pangalawa, ang mga maliliit na negosyo ay hindi napapatawan ng minimum corporate income tax. Pangatlo, para mapanatag ang loob ng taong bayan, ang pagbigay ng amnesty para sa mga hindi nabayarang buwis tulad ng income tax, estate at donors tax at value-added tax. Kasama na rin dyan ang mga multa na kaakibat ng mga ito. Malinaw ang mga leksyon sa atin ng mga nagdaang buwan. Una, ang kahalagahan ng seguridad at katatagan ng bansa pagdating sa enerhiya at sa pagkain, ng ating ugnayan sa ibang bansa at ng bawat mamamayan kahit saan man sila naroroon. Pangalawa, ang abilidad ng pamahalaan na kumilos agad sa angkop at mainam na paraan. At ang ikatlo, ang pagpursigi at pagnatyag ng Pilipino sa kabila ng mga hamong dumadaan.
Sige, Robin, of course, it was an hour and a half long na SONA. Ang dami niyang points na pag-usapan. But I wanted to just pick some of them, no? And one of those that had real impact, as in, at least within the hall, within the plenary hall, was itong tax relief measures. So, syempre, nandun yung 350K a year na lang, yung sa annual income tax, exemption from annual income tax, and then yung income tax, estate tax, amnesty, and yung minimum corporate income tax. That one did get quite a bit of applause. Why is that, and how can you explain that in terms of how people feel about it?
Yeah, so actually, before the SONA, no, we released a survey around March, and even for the June survey, we saw that around 60% of people feel that we're heading in the wrong direction, and that's because of what I would call yung twin economic issues natin, yung inflation, which has been a problem since 2-3 years ago, plus itong energy crisis na nag-exacerbate pa. This is yung nangyari sa energy crisis, we thought this was purely an OFW issue, pero nag-redound pala yan sa households. May tinatawag tayo ng concept na per capita. So it's not just a macroeconomic effect, it's an effect on households and individual people. Working people working in the service industry, and just households basically trying to meet the basic needs. And may isa pa kaming statistic actually na how frequently do people experience economic hardship? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? So 20% of people experience economic depravity every day, every single day. And then another 20% to 25% experience it at least 2 times a week. So this was the material context that Bongbong Marcos was inheriting as he was about to talk about his State of the Nation address this 2026.
What does it mean by yung
issue.
twice a week? Bakit twice a week?
So minsan nakakabili sila ng goods, no? They won't have any difficulty buying. They think that it's affordable. But then sometimes they find it hard because na-stretch na yung income nila, nabili nila for the other days.
Okay.
So, ibig sabihin, they'll have to sacrifice, some comfortability in the other days of the week. So, ganyan yung nakita naming datos and ganyan yung nakita naming data dyan sa aming survey. And so, only a few people feel that their lives are comfortable. And many of these people are in the C, D, and E, who are basically just affected by this. So it's not just, he did mention yung OFW's repatriation
Right.
and job loss sa Middle East. But then it's right for him actually to recognize that there is an effect on Filipinos in the Philippines. And kaya yung tax relief was, I think, resonant in the speech. Kasi nararamdaman talaga ng tao yan ngayon.
Para bang nabunutan tayo ng tinik Parang gano'n.
Yeah,
Kahit papaano.
Kahit papaano. And I like na comprehensive yung policy package niya. No? And it starts with taxation kasi it talks about how much you can buy with your money.
Yeah,
And taxes obviously is a big part of it. Kung tanggalin mo yun, edi either magagamit mo yung pera na yun na tinanggalan ng tax para sa ibang bagay na kailangan mong bilhin every day. So,
And I guess it resonated really because remember yung sa flood control scandal na parang dyan pala napunta yung binabayaran nating income tax. Lahat ng tax natin dyan lang pala
tama.
pupunta. Akala natin dun sa flood control or sa programa ng gobyerno, yung pala na nabubulsa lang pala ng mga politiko.
Oo,
Ganon.
parang babayad tayo tax na nakawin lang pala, kaya tayo nagugutom lahat. And then, actually, since you mentioned din ni Bongbong yung na restitution, yung naibalik na pera sa gobyerno.
Yeah.
Sabi niya, ibabalik natin yan sa social services, ibabalik sa tao. So I think all of these things, I think 70% of his speech is economics, which is very technocratic, very policy-oriented.
But it didn't sound so, because, diba, for all these past SONAs kasi, every time any president would talk economics, it was like, ano yan, numbers na hindi mo na but this one seemed, parang it...
People-centered, it's socially aware.
Parang
it's
there's this term, grounded. There's this term ngayon parang lumanding Parang ganon. Diba?
Totoo.
Yeah.
Yeah, may academic term, populist economics, pero I wouldn't say it's populism. Masyadong strong in a word. I think it's just socially aware na economics. So, what I felt,
in other words, it's the opposite of tone deaf. Ganun ba yun?
Pwede. Yeah, it's the opposite of tone deaf. Hindi siya up in the air na numbers, which is the tendency of a lot of the parang technocratic, policy wonky speeches. Ganyan yung approach. Pero ito at least medyo na humanize at nakinig yung mga tao.
Kasi dati yung mga SONA, never mind which president, mga GDP, mga ganun, mga inflation rate, blah, 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 exchange rate, di ba ganun?
Correct. So may tendency na maging very quantitative and dehumanizing. So at least ito, merong human side. And dapat lang actually, kasi nga, we are in the midst of a crisis economically, a twin crisis nga. So, and he did mention that he put the country in a state of national energy emergency. So that's absolutely important. And nireport niya yung steps niya.
Yeah.
Can I talk about the medyo critical things now?
Yeah. Oh, wait. Are we going
pa?
na into the... Hindi, kasi tamang-tama sabi mo yung national energy emergency. We're going to that, no?
Yeah.
Because, so we're in dire need of energy resources. So he talks about malampaya, hydrogen power plants. Even, and I'm surprised that he brought it up, and parang he was able to slip it in nuclear energy. He was saying na nuclear power,
Can
use
make it
nuclear
cheaper.
energy anyway, solar power. And it sounded to me like, let's make it easier for people, di ba? And then, yung systems loss issue, and then we're going to play that soundbite muna.
Sa aking palagay, panahon na para tanggalin na natin ang systems loss na pinapasa sa consumer. Pinapasa ito sa consumer at kinakarga sa bill na pinapatungan pa ng value-added tax. Hindi naman kasalanan ng consumer kung bakit nagkaroon ng systems loss. Kaya hindi naman tama na kailangan sila pa ang pagbabayarin dito. Therefore, we, the people, we demand for the immediate amendment of the EPIRA and to prohibit charging systems laws against consumers, including the value-added tax thereon.
Yun yung isang pinakamahabang applause.
Yeah. Kasi yung energy crisis directly answers that and yung epekto sa consumer. Maganda yung sinabi niya and I think that was resonant din and very very concrete yung policy solution. Ang tanong lang is, are you really able to pass it in Congress? So babantayan ng tao yan whether or not it's really possible. Kasi if I remember correctly, in previous presidencies, yung EPIRA has been a subject of discussions and policy reform. Pero wala masyadong nangyari. So we'll see if that,
Bakit walang masyadong nangyayari?
Well, kasi it will affect the oligarchs, it will affect the political economy of the Philippines and people basically who support your campaign, diba? So may ganyang mga issues, whether kaya mo talagang banggain yung mga tumulong sa'yo sa campaign. So it's a question of political will and I'm really interested to see how this will end. Whether or not it's really possible to repeal this.
Yeah, a SONA is a
provision.
speech until it is no longer just a speech, right?
Correct.
Okay. So there were so many other, like we were saying, so many other issues, and then stop me when you want to talk about it. So, like I said, an hour and a half long speech. There were so many
One of
things
the
that you
longest,
brought up. Yeah, the longest. But for some reason, parang I was glued, no? I don't know why. So anyway, nabanggit mo na kanina, di ba, yung mga OFW na ipit sa gera, oil supply, pati yung no more fees sa bank transfer, mga online transfer, nabanggit niya yon, pati yung mga e-wallets, yung mga terminal fees sa mga paliparan, disaster response, a railway system, yung north-south, pati yung sa hanggang Clark, public infrastructure, waste to energy, agriculture, education, violence in schools, health, medicine, e-gov, community of nations, exports.
Yeah, quite
Pax
comprehensive.
Silica. Comprehensive. Can we talk about Pax Silica? In the days before his SONA, meron nang lumalabas sa media, di ba? Parang medyo tinitira na and then there would be some people defending but what is it really all about and why would he talk about that?
Well, it's part of the Luzon Economic Corridor. It is there's a big investment coming from the United States. So aside from the EDCA bases, yung issue kasi ng mga tao is then that you would add the access of United States in the Philippines, and the investments and a lot of exemptions for U.S. companies. Well, I mean, the idea naman is to be less reliant on China on many things, including AI,
But hindi ito
technology.
US lang, right? It's just a US-led.
There are others. I'm not sure about the extent of the investment.
Yeah.
But it's mainly the United States. It is a U.S.-led initiative in the Philippines. But a product of the Luzon Economic Corridor, which is also, a big chunk of it is also U.S.-led. Pero it will also involve yung Japan and other allies.
Is it possible that some of the negative reaction to that is because people still the older generation, well, I'm part of that siguro, people still remember Clark and Subic and what it was like because Filipinos had no real access to it. Or at least we had until the gates because the guards at the gates were Pinoy.
Yeah, yung visiting
is that one
forest
of it?
agreement, right? There's a lot of...
even before VFA, yung bases, the US military bases.
Definitely. So, under Bongbong kasi, syempre, diba, we already had 5 bases.
EDCA
under
daw,
the
hindi
EDCA
naman daw
into
bases.
2014. Or
EDCA,
EDCA sites.
Yeah,
EDCA
sites.
back in 2014. And then that was basically delayed by Duterte for a long time. And even, there was a threat of that being repealed altogether, rescinded. And then Bongbong came in and then added 4 more sites after we rekindled the relationship with the United States. So that number, diba? And the fact that some of these sites can aid in a Taiwan contingency. These are issues being
Yeah.
embroiled in this alliance, diba? So yung issue kasi ng alliance is there is a fear of abandonment and there's a fear of entanglement. So abandonment is, diba, totoo ba yan? Under Trump, diba, under Rubio, under Hegseth, are you really going to honor the alliance? So that's one fear if you enter into a partnership with the United States or any country. The other one is, okay, partner tayo, pero may responsibility din kami dyan sa partnership na yan. Diba? May obligation kami. Kung nag-away kayo, may kaaway ka, sa fine print, titingnan natin kung kasama kami sa gulo ninyo. But that, in fact, is in the fine print. So,
Yeah.
so yan din yung issue ng mga people who oppose that or who are a bit more critical, who have more questions regarding
Yeah.
it. And you know, a lot of these agreements kasi is at what you call high politics or executive level that rarely gets discussed using congressional oversight or even, you know, the broader population if there's a plebiscite. Kasi foreign policy is such a high political issue. And, you know, and I don't think a lot of people really care to talk about it dahil then, you know, it might be a very far issue for them. But you know, sila, mga leftist groups, they're not very happy about it. I don't think it's a left issue. I think it's a center issue. I think it's an issue of the U.S. alliance with the Philippines. Pero
Yeah, and well, the economic impact, and you know, they talk about water, how it's going to dry up all our water sources, at least in that area,
Because-
etc. Ganun.
because creating a data center is a heavy industry. There's a lot of activities there in terms of, you know, setting it up, displacement of the environment, putting up a factory, putting up a way in which you can process data. It's huge. Data centers are huge. If you've seen them, it needs a lot of space. It needs a lot of machinery. It needs a lot of people, and so maybe they're just nitpicking on that.
Yeah.
Although to me, I think overall it's good. Pac Silica is
Good,
good. We
yeah.
need to be less reliant
On China.
on China, make sure that we diversify. Of course, there's always a cost, and one of the costs is that we become closer to the U.S. And I do agree that we also need to be wary about all countries, whether it's China or U.S.
Yeah, well, friend to all, enemy to none, like he said.
Yes.
Oo. So para bang, is it like, okay, parang the president's balancing so many things. Okay, you have this purported threat of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Then you have the U.S. there in the EDCA sites in very convenient Cagayan Valley region. And then you have Pac Silica at the same time. And given what he has said many times over and in his SONA, which he ended with, you know, all these talk about China and the Philippines, you know, how he
Dignity.
defended the country, etc. Para bang naghahanap siya ng middle ground na we have to fight back against China.
Yes.
And we can do that partly with the help of the U.S., but at the same time, we can't, like you said earlier, we can't be too close to the U.S. either. So para bang balancing act na lang? Parang gano'n?
Yes, balancing act. And mahirap actually yung situation ni Bongbong ngayon. Kasi ASEAN chair siya. Kung ASEAN chair ka, you're judged on your ability to convene. Your convening power, your gravitas in getting world leaders to come to the Philippines, get them on the negotiating table, and create basically outputs that's good for the region. So it's not just about you. But then that would require talking to Xi Jinping, which he did last year. Diba? Pinuntahan niya si Xi Jinping sa APEC. And then, tapos inappoint pa the new secretary, Lazaro, who's of course pivotal in many different ways in her career. But at the same time, parang siya yung mas kaya makipag-usap sa China. So people were saying na baka naging soft tayo dito sa China. And as ASEAN chair, dapat mapapunta mo dito si Xi Jinping, mapag-usapan yung code of conduct, and many other world leaders and other issues. But chief among which, I think, is yung COC. Kasi sinabi na niya ni Bongbong dati pa, last year pa, bago magsimula yung ASEAN chairship. We're in the middle of the ASEAN summit. Kasi there are more than, I think, 300 meetings throughout the year. The main event, I think, I would say is November. So titingnan natin kung makukuha ni Bongbong Marcos yung conversation na yan.
Yeah.
Pero then, I'm happy that he was bold regarding China in the West Philippine Sea kasi may aggression na naman. It's not new. Diba lagi naman may aggression and coercion.
Yeah.
Although medyo na-arrest yung pag-decline ng relationship, bumalik na naman itong coercion ng China. And so, yeah, I'm happy that he is bold
Yeah,
against China.
Oo.
Pero, yun na nga, it's balancing act kasi ASEAN chair ka,
Yeah.
may nangyari sa China, and then now you have the United States,
Oo.
and who you need because the US is still one of the biggest allies of the Philippines.
Oo. Notable also yung sinabi niya, no, sa SONA, yung ASEAN is our safe harbor. And then he talks about an ASEAN power grid. I was kind of surprised, but parang, and then when he talks about the energy problem, yung naghanap tayo ng other energy sources, tapos itong systems loss, pinakamahalang power rates ng Pilipinas in this part of the world.
Yeah.
No, and then he talks about an ASEAN power grid. You know, parang it's like parang,
He has a regional worldview,
Yeah,
and I think
oo.
it's because of his chairship of the ASEAN, the influence siya dyan, no? So, which is good, because
Yeah.
at least there's a region-wide approach to energy, to crisis, to the crisis, and you know the energy crisis is global, and it's good to have a community response, a regional community response to this. If ever they can help us and we can learn from our neighbors, so that's something that we should welcome.
Yeah. Okay. Before we close this portion of this part of the interview of this episode of Let's Talk on the SONA, because we're going to close with the president's words on and about China in his closing part of the speech. I wanted to ask you, Muna, what other parts of the SONA, resonated with you and had real impact, you think?
I think we said most of it na. So at the start with Martin Romualdez, so I was happy that he addressed nga yung what I mentioned earlier na potentially a sincerity deficit na may deficit dun sa seriousness ng kanyang approach. It's still political instead of governance, instead of for everyone. Medyo tayo sa impeachment kasi kung investigate mo sa flood control, mababawasan yung boto. It's things like that. So
Oo.
it's political.
Pero he never mentioned the impeachment trial.
He never did,
Never
which is good.
mentioned VP Sara. Well, he didn't have to because she wasn't there, so he wouldn't have to acknowledge her. And I think she didn't want to be there anyway, di ba?
Yeah.
She's abroad eh. No,
Para
pero
less
talagang
political siya.
basta't iniwasan niya para bang, no, I'm not even gonna, tama si Claire Castro, sabi niya, hindi siya priority ng Pangulo. Walang binanggit.
Tama.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's one of the effective frames of the SONA itself. Plus all of the economically responsive stuff in the middle, and then the West Philippine Sea. These are all resonant to me. But can I say the but?
Yes, say the
Okay. I think the SONA, I think it was adequate. I think it was responsive.
but. Okay.
But
Ayan na.
what I hope, and I said this before, I said this last year, as president, you're not just a technocrat. You're supposed to give us a vision and a destination. You're supposed to inspire us.
Yeah, you're supposed to tell us where you want to take us.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's basically your best
Set the
opportunity.
wind in the country's sails.
Yes, fantastic. That's the right way to put it. And he chose Bagong Pilipinas as his political slogan. But to me, that remains to be a hollow slogan. He hasn't really defended and substantiated it. We don't know what problem
exactly it
he's
means.
diagnosing.
Yeah.
And what is his solution? What is his vision? And what are the tactical strategies to get there? So that story, I think that was left unsaid and ignored last year and the year before that. And I was hoping that this year, finally, he will define for us what this new Philippines is. And I am intrigued. I really want to be in the new Philippines too. I mean, diba?
Yeah, don't we all?
It's
Yeah.
a common interest. But yeah, I thought that was not there, and he didn't even mention it. Well, I think I didn't catch any mention of Bagong Pilipinas. Maybe once or twice in a program, diba? Pero yeah, so yun. I think that was kulang. Hindi siya nasagot. And I wanted to see this aspirational tone, and that we're closer to that aspiration because we're closing out his presidency.
Yeah, oo.
And,
Para bang ito sana na parang
kulang.
this is where I want to take the country and this is how we're
nagsimula
gonna
tayo.
get there.
Yes.
And number 1, 2,
Yeah.
3. Parang ganun.
Yeah, you're chief inspirational officer as president. You can also be chief technocrat. You can, but you're not the energy secretary, right? You are our leader, diba? So yun yung hinahanap ko. And I think Bongbong is rhetorically able. Like he
Yeah,
can.
actually,
He
yeah.
speaks well, no?
Yes, yeah.
And I do appreciate that he's wonky, that he's technical, he's technocratic, he does research. Pero I would also want to see that part of him lumabas na mas aspirational, mas visionary, mas strong.
So why didn't that come out?
You know what? I'm not really sure. I think there's just a lot of things that he wanted to tackle. I think kasi that was introduced late in the game na eh. I think it was introduced 2023 kasi he started with Unity. Obviously, that's not anymore valid. And so then he introduced Bago Pilipinas. He started out with a song and a logo, and you can see that everywhere. But after that, parang walang follow through. No, so
Maybe that's because in this country, campaigns are just campaigns.
well,
I mean, I
that
haven't
too.
seen meron bang presidential campaign na tinutuhanan hanggang dulo after the 6 years?
Yeah,
Just
that's a valid
wondering,
question.
yeah.
So so I felt that the speech was adequate. But siguro out of 10, I would give him maybe a 6.5 to 7. So
Oh, that's not very Para kang terror professor. No? Hanggang 6 point. Hindi man lang pasado.
sado naman.
Hindi, pasado
Hindi,
kasi
bagsak.
dapat 7.5. Ano bang pasado sa'yo?
7.5. 7. Sabi ko naman 6.5 to 7.
Seven.
Sado naman siya.
Pasado ba yung 7?
Sado naman.
Hindi, sa bar exam. Ano ba?
Okay.
Huwag na natin pag-usapan yung bar exam. Okay.
Hey, his name is Chico Garcia,
And his name is Gino Killiamore.
and together we are Only Fun.
That's right, for only $12 a month.
But if you're willing to pay, why not? No, we're from a podcast that talks about movies, TV shows. Basically, we do reviews of K-dramas, whatever is on streaming, whatever is on cinemas. We also get to occasionally interview celebrities, actors, directors.
And of course, infused with our own witty brand of humor and slice of life.
Wow. I guess we don't infuse a lot.
Check it out.
Before we close out this portion of the interview, like I said, on this about the SONA, we're going to play that the last two parts of the speech.
Just recently, we celebrated the 10th anniversary of the final and binding 2016 Arbitral Award, which stands as a definite benchmark for the interpretation and application of the UNCLOS. This is not a claim that we advance alone, nor is it one that we will abandon. Your government will do all that is necessary to continue upholding this award, utilizing every peaceful and legal means available to the Republic against any attempt, foreign or domestic, to undermine this achievement. We give honor to our armed forces, the Coast Guard, even our fisherfolk, who all continue to patrol and ply our seas in the face of great risk. To them, we owe collective gratitude and appreciation, for it is they who give life to the letter and spirit of the Arbitral Award. Mga kapwa kong Pilipino, sa ganitong mga banta sa ating seguridad, sa loob at sa labas ng bansa, tayo'y tumindig ng taas noo at magkapit-bisig. Dahil tayo man ay magkakaiba sa maraming bagay, iisa lang tayong lahi. Tayong lahat ay Pilipino, Pilipino sa diwa, Pilipino sa dugo. Manaig nawa ang pagkakaisa at ang pagmamahal natin sa inang bayan at sa kapwa Pilipino. Sa bagay na ito, hindi tayo magkakatunggali. Tayo ay magkakabigkis tulad ng ating pinamana sa ating buong kasaysayan. Sa mga pang-aalipusta, hindi tayo matitinag. Sa manlulupig, hindi tayo pasisiil. Sa nalalabing 2 taon ng administrasyon, tatapusin natin ang mga nasimulan at tutuparin ang ating pangako sa sambayanan. My beloved countrymen, let us continue the work that we have started to make the Philippines the country that Filipinos deserve. There is no nobler cause than this. We do this for our children. We do this for our future. We can but do this because we love our country and we love our people. Maraming salamat po. Magandang gabi po. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas!
Kanina, you said na yung grade mo sa kanya, mga 6.5 to 7.
Taas naman.
Taas naman. So, even if you heard that last paragraph.
Yes, even if I heard that last paragraph.
Yeah.
That's good. Again, as I appreciate
Adequate,
that.
but
Yeah, I really appreciated the boldness, and I think that was very resonant. In fact, perhaps the most resonant part of the speech. But kaso nga lang, merong mga things na hinahanap tayo. So hopefully masabi niya sa ibang opportunities. Perhaps not in the SONA, perhaps in his, if he does a weekly speech from now on.
Yeah. But there's like
some
a
purpose.
year and 8 to 10 months left na lang in his presidency,
Konti na lang,
no?
kasi
So
filing of candidacy na next year. So
yeah. And that's a good segue to our next portion of the interview, because like we said earlier, we're taping this on a Wednesday, and you are releasing the latest survey.
yeah, the
on Friday.
quarter two national poll of WR
okay.
on Friday.
Yeah, and we're airing this kasi Friday. So for those who are going to be watching, it's already Friday, July 31. So let's go straight into that survey. No, very interesting. Unang-una, because and just to prepare people for what you're going to talk about. No, I remember back in 2022, you had a survey where you showed us sino yung for BBM, sino yung for Sara. And then there was and then sino yung mga Pinklawan, Dilawan, etc. And then there was this huge chunk of people na kumbaga non-aligned.
Yeah.
Parang non-aligned movement, no?
Yeah.
And now you check those numbers.
We pioneered this measure called factional partisanship. We wanted to be a bit more closer to how U.S. polling firms measure Republican and Democrats. It's easier to do that now because we see a very polarized society across several factions.
Yeah.
So we measure 3 basic factions. No? Those who align themselves with the Dutertes or the Duterte family, those who identify themselves with the Marcoses, those who identify themselves with the liberal progressives, those who don't identify themselves with anyone, with any of these factions. And, if you can see in the screen, it's very interesting because you'd see that the Dutertes still have the biggest faction.
Was it 37% back in 2022?
I'm not really sure about 2022, but when we started to measure this in I think 2023, I remember the numbers. It's already at 30%.
Okay.
And so over time, the Dutertes are stable at 30%. So that's this picture tells you how big the base is of each of these political factions. So the Dutertes have almost 40% of the whole population, of the whole voting population, qualified voters, and 20% each for the Marcoses and the liberal progressives, and 20% for none of the above. This picture tells you a lot of things about factions, about political cognition, about the behavior of campaigns. No, I think one of the most meaningful insights you can draw from this is, first of all, the liberal progressives and even the Marcoses will have to do some catching up. No? So it is a question of how you grow your base, how you talk to the undecideds, those who don't identify themselves with any of these factions, which is 24%, bigger
ang
than
laki,
any of the two.
ang laki nito,
Yeah,
24.
so swing vote yan. And that's why you see variability sa Senate because you can choose many. So these people can choose from all of the factions, no? If they would decide to vote for any of the senators. So yun, so it talks about where we are now politically as a society. It talks about what the campaigns, the movements, the social movements, the political movements will need to do in order to beat or supplant the an era of Dutertismo that started in 2016. So it's a decade now since the Dutertes came into power, and what we see is that it's still the Duterte narrative that dominates political and social life. And we don't even have to look at the surveys. Just look at the results of the 2025 midterm election, right? So at least 3 of the members of the top 6 senators belong to the Duterte. In fact, number 1 is a Duterte aligned candidate, si Bongo. So, and then Marcoleta, as a surprise candidate, Duterte aligned din yan. So that just validates this this data point, this chart.
Yeah.
And then yun. So
and like just to repeat, just to bring home the point, this was done June 9 to 16. So
4 weeks, 5 weeks ago.
And 2 weeks before, 2.5 weeks before the impeachment trial started.
Correct. So I think the preparations were underway for this, but the discussions have not yet been in full view.
Okay.
So
and yung 24%, down 1% from March. So kumbaga hindi siya nagbabago yung 24 na yan.
Hindi masyadong. You mean yung non-aligned?
Yeah.
Medyo stable siya sa 24.
Yeah.
So medyo stable sa 24.
But which means actually, they're not getting convinced by any side. Para bang ayaw nila.
Mas malaki to. If you look at the next slide, mas malaki to nung last year.
Okay.
So ito yung growth.
And by the way, I like the
time.
previous slide. Ang ganda.
Thank
mas
you.
madaling maintindihan
yung visualization.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
so
sige.
actually, yung independents or non-aligned peaked at 39%.
Yeah. Wait, let's identify them up for those who are watching. Yung green line, of course, that's Duterte. Yung gray, yun yung non-aligned.
Yes.
Correct? Yung pink, yun ang mga liberal progressives, yung mga Pinklawan, Dilawan, LP, Akbayan, etc. Ang red ay ang BBM. Sige, go ahead.
So, ang biggest takeaway dito sa na to is bumaba yung non-aligned. No? And that means that people are basically choosing sides. No? And this is a 3-quarter period. No? So from November to June, nakita niyo yung data niya na 39% yung independents.
Yeah.
Bumaba sharply sa March, the quarter after.
Yeah.
And then nag-stabilize siya at 25%.
Ito, yeah, from here.
Yes.
Here. It's really parang parang plunge.
Yeah.
Here, the gray, non-aligned, bagsak ng 25,
Yeah.
ngayon 24. Okay.
In fact, for 2025, the trend was upward yung non-aligned. No? Siguro nababad trip sila. Nalalagas yung support for some of the factions from March. That was an election year. And then ang dami nangyari dun sa leadership changes. And then actually what you can see here over time, people have become more polarized. They're taking sides now politically. And that's why you see an upward trend in pro-Duterte and liberal progressives. If I might say, the biggest gainer from November, quarter and quarter, are the liberal progressives.
Yeah, kasi
they have an upward trend from 12% in November 2025, a couple of months ago, to 20% in June 2026.
to 20, parang an 8% from November last year to June this year. Yung the Duterte brand naman, family,
umakyat nitong March.
34 to 37.
So yung
parang
rally
plus
niya,
3.
plus 3
lang.
from November.
Okay.
Pero ito, decisive. It's 8%. An 8% increase in number of supporters.
Yeah.
So, tapos, saan nanggagaling yan? It seems like nanggagaling doon sa non-aligned.
Yeah.
Napupunta sila either sa opposition, sa liberal progressive, or sa pro-Duterte.
If I were Malacanang, I would be worried looking at this because in November 2025, 15% ako, umakyat to 22% in March, tapos pagsak sa 18. Diba? Para bang...
Yeah. So, yun na nga. So, it's an issue of how good you are. So, diba, ito yung issue actually, no? When people feel that they are, they're in a rut, they're experiencing economic hardship, economic depravity, the issue then becomes, who do you blame? So, ang SONA, babalik ko lang quickly, or any type of speech, is an opportunity to deflect that blame, to deflect the direction of blame. That's one of the things that you can do in political rhetoric.
Yeah.
The Dutertes are very good at doing that. So even if we've experienced the worst crisis such as the COVID, they came out on top. Digong received a very high rating even after his presidency, and partly because of rhetoric and many other factors. No, but he was able to successfully convince a lot of people, not everyone, that it is a structural issue. COVID is structural. Everyone experienced it. Pero ang inflation and energy crisis is the same. Like, it is a structural issue. The question is, are you rhetorically competent in order to reframe, diba, who people blame? It seems like, and we have data about this, that most of the people feel that majority of the people feel that government should be the one taking care of them instead of another entity. There are a lot of institutions in society. Pwede namang, kasalanan niya ng WHO, ng international community. It doesn't matter. Even flood control. In fact, it was Bongbong Marcos who was blamed. We released that, I think, nung November survey namin, tinanong namin, okay, may flood control, nababahala ka dyan, sino may kasalanan?
BBM ba rin?
And chief among them, or si Bongbong. Right? So it's blame deflection. Kaya bumababa yung ratings ni Bongbong dahil sa kanya ina-ascribe yung problema ng society. So kaya nga ang tingin ko rin sa SONA, reactive and defensive eh. Diba? And, and even if you did that, was it effective enough to tell everyone, guys, we're doing everything we can. This is what we're all supposed to do. It's a whole of government, whole of society approach. And, I'm not alone here. And we all have a role to play. And I'm not at fault. No? I'm doing everything. Whether people believe that is another thing. It seems like hindi. No? So parang...
So it wasn't enough for him to start his speech with, okay, Pangulo ako ng buong bayan, hindi lang ng pamilya, kamag-anak. So
wasn't enough. It
wasn't
was
enough.
important.
It
is impactful.
Yeah.
Pero parang hindi enough. Although we'll see, no?
We'll see.
Sa quarter 3 natin na survey, whether it was effective. Kasi makakapture niya yung impeachment, makakapture niya yung SONA.
When we were preparing for this episode, before we started taping, no, so we did talk about, and I don't know if this will be the right time or later when we see the senatorial. So kanina, di ba, pinag-usapan natin yung paano si Kiko at si Bam nakapasok nung 2025, the May 2025 elections. And then now, looking at this chart of yours, in March 2025, yung mga liberal progressives nasa 26%. So everybody, please just look at the pink. No, there are 26. Bagsak in April, just a month later, to 14. Tapos they inch up to 16% in August.
Yeah.
So, di ba, like you were saying earlier na, di ba, everybody was saying, we all know this, parang kaya nakapasok si Kiko at Bam dahil sa mga bata, di ba?
Yeah.
The young generation. But this doesn't exactly show that, right?
Yeah. If we unpack this, no, according to the major demographics, no, including geography, socioeconomic, as well as age, you'd see that.
And class.
Then, class, and then geography, age, etc. So you would see that actually a lot of kids, a lot of members of those who belong to the Gen Zs, the 29 and below, millennials 30 to 45, a lot of them support the Dutertes. In fact, I'm not sure if you can show that, but around 40% each, no, from the Gen Zs and the millennials support the Dutertes. Much more than, in fact, a little more than the factions, no? Yung 37%. Ibig sabihin, may mga independents na will probably vote for Sara Duterte. So the point is, baka lang kailangan we should investigate more social scientific investigation into this hypothesis that it's the determinant of the victory of Bam and Kiko and other liberal progressives was because of the age demographic. That's nice to say, although they did contribute a lot, but they're not the main variable. No, so if you're a campaign manager, if you're preparing for the presidential election, this chart should aid you. Who should you micro-target?
There's one other chart, no, on this. Meron ba? Merong isa pa eh. Okay. Ito yung by area.
Ito by area, I'm not sure if pakita yung age, pero understandably, if you unpack this, most of the most of the people who identify themselves with Duterte, 80% overwhelmingly are from Mindanao. But it's a bit more even in Luzon, which represent a big part of the votes. In fact, I think it's almost more than 50% of all the votes are in Luzon. So this is a battleground. No? So yung Metro Manila and NCR, you'd see it even out across all factions. In fact, the biggest are those who don't identify themselves with anyone at 32%, and 21% each for those who identify themselves with the Dutertes and the Liberal Progressives, and 23 for Marcos. So that's Metro Manila.
Yeah. So if
And
you're the
then,
campaign manager for a
titingnan mo
2028 candidate,
titingnan mo tong titingnan mo yung
oo.
soft voters ng lahat ng factions kasi pwede pa silang makumbinsi, at saka itong non-aligned, yung hindi sana yung wala sa nabanggit. And then rest of Luzon, medyo mas mahina ang Dutertes dito, 20%, 19%. And then yung non-aligned at saka yung Liberal Progressives are 28% and 26% respectively. So that's crucial because of course, you know, yung Central Luzon, tsaka yung Calabar Zone, diba? That's, if you win that area, you have a good chance of winning the election. But these are battleground areas. Basically, Luzon is a battleground
Is it possible na kaya malaki din? I mean, all the three charts you've shown us, no? And then, very consistent na, like you said, 40% by non-aligned.
Yeah.
No? Is it possible
20% non-aligned. 20%.
20%, sorry. Is it possible na kaya ganun siya kalaki? Dahil, wala pa namang malinaw. Except the only one who has said, I'm running, is Sarah back in Feb. Nobody else has said very clearly. And even if, for example, Risa says na, okay, I am open to running, there's no identified presidential candidate yet for the liberal progressive forces, right? So it's all up in the air. So, and that's why people don't want to decide also. Hindi ko nga, parang, tatanungin mo ako, hindi ko nga alam sino pang tatakbo sa inyo, parang ganon.
Yeah, exactly. So, wala pa yung rallying effect eh. Kasi kapag, the reason why hindi sigurado yung mga tao is because hindi nila alam kung yung kandidato nila ay tatakbo. So, if you go to that slide na sa presidency,
which is
17% pa yung hindi sigurado. So, very close to what we're talking about. Yung age, I think we just have to say it na lang, yung 40% ng Gen Zs, 29 and below, at saka yung millennials, no, will support a Duterte candidate, and that's what we've seen. And
meaning Sarah, because she says she's running. No?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yung Visayas, interesting to dahil pwede din tong battleground. Yung Central Visayas kasi, yung Cebu and Bohol, vote rich yan na area, and they speak, they have affinity towards the Dutertes.
Yeah, Visayas, so 34.94% ang Duterte sa Visayas.
Yung Central Visayas, Cebu and Bohol.
This is Cebu and Bohol lang.
Yeah.
But Visayas, meron din
so yung
Panay.
Negros area,
Panay Negros.
Yung Western Visayas, that's Liberal Progressives.
Okay.
Leyte, yan yung Marcos. That's just a rough estimate, just analyzing the Visayas votes.
Okay.
But yeah, so slightly ahead lang yung Dutertes in Visayas.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they're a big part, a big part of Visayas will vote for a liberal progressive candidate.
All right. So let's go to the next slide already. Ito yung direction.
Ito sinabi natin to.
Yeah, okay.
70% they feel we're heading the wrong direction. Only 32% yung tamang direction. But this is more applicable for a SONA context.
And you will ask this question again for the next.
Yes.
Okay, para makita natin
pero
kung
tumaas siya,
magbabago.
10%.
Yeah.
Kaya bumaba din yung rating ni BBM. Kasi nga, na-cover nito yung crisis eh. Yung the full extent of the Iran energy crisis was covered by this survey.
Yeah.
And people really feel it. And tama naman, kaya tama yung SONA. Kasi in-acknowledge nga ni Bongbong na tao na apektuhan, hindi lang siya OFWs.
Right. Oo, tsaka parang gut issue kasi, 'di ba?
Exactly.
What's important to us, ang taas ng bill natin sa kuryente, ng Meralco, kulang yung pera natin, yung income tax sobrang laki, kung saan lang napupunta, yung mga ganon, di ba?
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's just skip this and then let's go to the presidential preferences for 2028. And again, this was done in June 9 to 16. All right.
So this is a 6-person list.
Yeah.
No? And
no surprises here, right?
No surprises here. Actually, this was so we tracked it. We had 12 names, a longer list no March, but we said, okay, maybe we should trim it down because some of the some of the candidates from the administration did not anymore include because they're not doing very well. So these are
Sino?
sila Sonny Angara, sila Vince Dizon, sila John Vic Remulla, and others pa. So they received a little more than maybe just 1% or even less. I think we even included Martin Romualdez there. Last year we
Talaga?
didn't include him.
Okay.
So we trimmed it down to 6. So this is what we have. Sara Duterte is still the front runner, 39%. There's so much to say about this. And then Leni Robredo at 20%, representing the two biggest gainers in this round. So Sara Duterte and Leni Robredo are two biggest gainers.
Para bang lumiit ba ang lamang ni Sara kay Lenny? Although yes, it is still 19%, but it used to be much bigger before, di ba?
Correct. And so if you really look at the numbers, Leni Robredo is the biggest gainer here. So at 5%, it's still far off. There's still a 20-point gap, but at least the trend is upward, right? At least for her. So if she decides to run, then this is a statistic that she might be able to consider.
This is going to make her supporters very happy because they want her to run. Although she keeps
guess.
announcing na, I'm not going to run na nga. Dito lang ako sa Naga. Huwag kayong makulit. Sinabi ko na. Ganun.
Yun na nga. But there's a lot to say about that. Dapat magsimula na siya if gusto talaga niya, no? Kasi baka din yung filing of
Wait,
candidacy.
when you say if gusto talaga niya, you're not convinced by what she said that no, I'm not running. It sounds like
I think she's open. I think she can run.
what's she waiting for?
Maybe she's waiting for the numbers. She's waiting for the outcome of the impeachment. These are the things that I'm hearing. I'm not an insider. I'm just an observer. We're just analysts. But yeah, so if in case she does run, I think she will convince some of the people who are unsure, which is 17%. Yung hindi sigurado. Nandun nga tayo sa rallying effect na sinasabi natin. When you announce, some of the supporters who are already thinking about you, thinking of voting for you, will then now decide to vote for you. And that principle also tells you a lot of things about Sara Duterte's numbers because she has already announced, but we haven't seen a decisive increase. So she was still at maybe the low 30%.
Yeah.
And then now she's at around 40%, but that's still just a 9% bump.
Yeah, okay. So at
although
ceiling,
the trend is increasing.
oo, ceiling na to? Or pwede pang tumaas?
Pwede pang tumaas yan, I think.
Pero may trial kasi, di ba?
Yung pa, may factor pa ng trial. Anong masasabi dyan? So anong papakita? Although, yung trial, I think, will convince the people who are soft supporters of Sara. Kasi around more than 50% of Sara voters, and we have this in the full, I think the report for those people who subscribe to us, more than 50% are already convinced and will not change their minds that Sara is their president for 2028. The other part, the other 50 to 40%, can still change their minds. No? So, ibig sabihin yan, pwede pa yan lumiit yung boto niya. But at the same time, siguro dun sa mga hindi pa sigurado, pwede ring piliin siya. Speaking of soft and hard voters, a successful campaign will draw votes from others, from other groups. Sara Duterte has the highest number of hard votes. Ibig sabihin, the other candidates, mas malaki yung pwede pang mag-iba yung isip than doon sa sigurado ng boboto sa kanila. Yan ang source ng votes ni Sara Duterte. So, pwede pa yan. Pwede pa yan. Mag-iba.
If I were on the possible campaign teams of any of these liberal progressive candidates, meaning yung mga tao ni Lenny, Bam, or Risa, I would also be worried about this because it's already, July 2026 and filing ng COC October na next year.
Baka mas maaga pa.
Diba? And then dapat by Feb, magdeklara na sila, magsabi na sino ba talaga ang tatakbo sa kanila. Hindi ba?
Exactly.
And because if you look at these numbers, ang baba ni na Bam and Risa, sobrang taas ni Lenny. Diba? Even if she has said she doesn't want to run. But then, people are saying, no, she might run pa kasi, di ba? I mean,
Siya
even
pa rin
you,
ang
di ba?
potential
So,
standard bearer talaga.
it doesn't, di ba?
Yeah, so there's a lot of catching up to do, really. And I think in the first place, the liberal progressives shouldn't splinter because that's what happened in 2022. They splintered into what, 4 places, diba? So you have Isko, Lenny, Pacquiao, and Ping Lacson. So yun. So nagkagulo. Konti na nga lang yung base mo. Like, if you look at this number, 20% yung base
Yeah.
mo, hinati mo pa.
Yeah.
Pa talagang, unsurprisingly, yun din yung lumabas dun sa numbers ng 2022 election.
Yeah.
And so if there's any lesson from that, it's that the very first step is you shouldn't splinter. Yun yung number one. Kaso, I'm actually not assured that goal can be achieved. Kasi some of the liberal progressives are criticizing each other in public.
Yeah.
Diba? So,
And in private.
and in private too.
And quietly from the...
Exactly. So dapat di ganon. Dapat di ganon. That's why you need a strong political party. Yan yung value ng political party.
Oo.
Kasi that's where you fund yung primaries, which they're trying to do.
But how can they have a primary? There's no...
Exactly.
Because
Yeah, so that's a structural reality that they
Yeah.
will have to overcome. That's why the first step really is to just not splinter. You unite.
Yeah.
But that's hard to do.
Oo.
And nakita nga natin it's hard to do.
Yeah,
So-
but they can't also. How will they? The question there is how are they going to unite? Because they're talking about when I was interviewing Edwin and Barry a few weeks back, 2-3 months ago, no. So they're talking about sana meron kaming parang primary, parang ganon. You're right, di ba? Parang hindi nga kayo partido, parang ano
Yeah.
yung gagawin nyo, di ba? Paano,
Yeah.
magpapasurvey kayo, di ba? Parang.
Yeah, exactly. And there are a lot of outspoken people within the liberal progressive group coalition. Yun, I completely understand. Sige, pangalan natin. Si Senator Trias, I respect him a lot, and I think that he's very strong, and I like that he supports Risa, but then at the same time, he would speak out against the other members
Yeah.
of the liberal progressives. I understand sometimes, but you can't really avoid saying that in public, but then that gets blown, diba? And yun yung nakikita ng tao. So there's this air na hindi kayo united, and so yun, baka na-worry din yung coalition nila.
Yeah.
Na saan ba tayo pupunta?
Okay,
So if you look at the VP numbers that we will release,
so VP and
for
sige,
VP, it's
Oo.
Bongo and Robin Padilla who are leading. So at around 20% each. And then followed by Grace Poe at around
Grace Poe.
Grace Poe,
Wow.
15%. In
Okay.
fact, she had better numbers in March kasi it was a 3-way tie even previously between the 3 front runners, si Bongo, si Padilla, tsaka si Grace Poe. So,
Okay.
yeah, meron pa siyang base kahit papano. But the VP race is a bit more fluid. Not only are they not so far apart, so
Yeah.
even si Bam Aquino, I think he got 10% in this particular round. Risa got around 7%. Marami rin ang hindi pa sigurado. So around 20%, 18% hindi pa
Yeah.
sigurado kung sino doon. So I think it's a very competitive field, yung vice president.
May nakalimutan pala ako dun sa presidential because you did say that you did a head-to-head, no? So Sarah versus Lenny, Sarah versus Rafi Tulfo, Sarah versus Bam, Sarah versus Risa.
Yeah, so what we did was to ask this hypothetical scenario, if these 4 candidates would go head-to-head with Sara Duterte, who would they vote for, no? So, you said nga, so yung una namin tinanong, Lenny, Sara versus Lenny, so Lenny got around 40%, no? 39% or 40%. And then si Sara around 50+%. Rafi Tulfo, I think, was slightly ahead by 1% kay Lenny. I have to check, but I think he's at 41% versus 49 of Sara Duterte. And mas maraming hindi sigurado. And then you have Bam Aquino and Risa Ontiveros, so around 30%
Yeah.
each. And umakyat pa lalo
Did you
kay
do that? Did you
Sara.
do the head-to-head because nag-request ang ang
No,
Liberal
we're
Progressives
really-
para makita nyo, di ba? Sino dapat yung tumakbo sa kanila? Is that why you did it?
No. We did it out of curiosity.
Okay.
And I think it's something that many people, in fairness, have asked us to do. So, yeah, we're just basically responding. But not because it was paid or anything. No, it's not
Okay.
because of that.
Or no request na Robin, pwede mo bang tanong? Walang
Well,
ganon.
may mga requests, pero pero it's not because there's a
Yeah.
financial
Yeah,
gain
okay.
to be had.
O sige. So let's wrap up the show na. Last words from you, no? So we're just coming out of the SONA. Then this survey, which was done in March and released itong July. What are we looking at in terms of the trial, etc.?
Yeah, so it's a mega year for politics, I would say. There's a lot of things we have to wait for. Of course, the outcome of the twin trials of the father in the ICC around the end of the year, and then the outcome of the impeachment also around the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, hopefully daw, fingers crossed.
Early,
At
hopefully.
the rate we're going, mukhang magpapasko tayo, hindi pa
next year.
tapos.
And people
sad.
will be glued. Yun na nga,
Yeah.
puro politics, and a lot of the people are talking about care about economics, and tama naman yung ginawa ni Bongbong na majority of his speech is economic. But then let's see if matutuloy yung mga reforms na kanyang sinuggest, if there will be follow through. As usual, that's what people are waiting for. And then so yung political coalitions, what they will do, who they will nominate as their standard bearer. Meron pang issue na, are you gonna unite? Are you gonna tandem with another faction?
Alliance
Meron bang
with...
Unipink na
Oo,
alliance? Diba?
Unipink.
So,
O nga pala.
Oo,
Yeah,
yan
the
din,
alliance. Kasi that's, kumbaga, one way for all of them to survive. Parang ganon.
correct. Or to just succeed in the election if they
Yeah.
want to beat the Dutertes. So,
But
there's
it
a
would
lot
be
to watch out for.
strange, no? But it might be necessary,
Well, the
kumbaga.
purists will say that it's really strange for
Yeah.
the Liberal Party, Liberal Progressives to have an alliance with the Marcoses. So, yeah, it is strange.
Yeah.
But then let's see how they will justify that rhetorically.
Yeah. Oh, that's why, and like you said, that is why it is a mega year in politics. What a soundbite. Pang SONA.
Pwede.
Anyway, thank you very much,
you.
Robin Garcia of WR Numero. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing all those insights on the SONA and the survey of yours that you are releasing when we air this, it's Friday. And
Welcome.
talaga nagpapasalamat ako to you for that.
Thank you
It's
po.
very
Thank you.
eye-opening, and I'm sure a lot of people will learn from your survey. So maraming salamat sa iyo, Robin. Thank you very much for being here. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Those who are watching and listening, I'm Pio Ontiveros. Let's keep talking.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.